Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 112 of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith, and I'm your host, and this one is an episode of Colin Campbell Chemicals and Dint Golf Solutions Walking the Fairways. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to have a fantastic new partnership involved here with Colin Campbell Chemicals, and I have joining me right now is Nadeem Zrykat, owner of the company. G'day, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad, Steve. Yourself?
Now, you own this company with your brother, and there's a couple of other people involved, mate. Family business?
Yes, it is. Yes, mate. We are 100% Australian, proudly Australian owned and operated, and part owner with myself, my brother, and my dad's old partner in the business as well. The three of us, and we all are actively very much involved.
Fantastic, mate. Sensational to hear, and great to be involved in a partnership again, having you on the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. And this time it's with Walking the Fairways, mate. So really, really appreciate your support, and that's you supporting me, but also we're doing this. You're supporting the industry as well, which is fantastic to see, mate. Mate, tell us a little bit about you do plant protection products. This is an introduction to your company, to Colin Campbell Chemicals. Tell us a little bit about what you've got.
Yeah, so people who haven't heard about us before, one thing I will say, go back to one of the episodes we did with regards to the history of Campbell Chemicals. But in short, we supply plant protection products for both horticulture and turf. We've got two sides of the business. I'm involved pretty much 90% of my time is all turf related. So we've got products to solve your disease issues, weed issues, insect issues. We've got a couple of growth regulators as well, and some very interesting, proprietary niche products to help you create a better surface for your facility.
Fantastic, mate. Great to hear. So if people out there that are managing all sports turf, you need to get in touch with Colin Campbell Chemicals to see how they can help you do your job better and protect your golf course. Mate, you've also got one that's coming, a new product. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so this one we've been waiting for, probably been working on it for about 3 years or so. So it's a Pythium fungicide, so it's quite specific to obviously golf courses and sporting fields and the likes. So Cyazofamid is the active ingredient, and that's going to be released as of recording. We should have this in about a week to 2 weeks at most. But it's a great curative and preventative Pythium fungicide, and does all Pythium. So your leaf blight Pythium, your Pythium root rot, and your Pythium root dysfunction. So pretty much, if you've got Pythium, it will solve your issue, and it also complements our other strong Pythium product, ProPlant, into the marketplace, along with our Emerald fungicide as well. So we've got a nice little package there to help turf managers.
Great to hear, and that's what this is all about, letting people know how they can do their job better with what's available in the industry. One of the big things that you do to support the industry is also knowledge, education. I help you produce you've got a podcast, Colin Campbell Chemicals have one called Behind the Turf. Tell us a little bit about that little passion project.
Yeah, sorry, let me just say one thing. I forgot to tell you the name of that product, Pythium product, called Chino. and this is the great thing. We've always done this in the past. Yeah, so Chino is the name of the fungicide, yes. But yes, the podcast we've got is Behind the Turf. It's called Behind the Turf. Yep. Steve there, for the listeners don't know, has helped me produce it because I needed someone to help, and he was more than willing to do it. So, and put it out on all the different platforms that are available that I know the Golfing Greenkeeper and Walking the Fairways goes out to. So you can listen to it all on that, but it's all about learning. I've got a lot of contacts over the world, mainly the US, with universities, and I sit down and talk to them about different things that they're working on, what's new, what are the problems, how to solve them, what they're finding out there as well. So it gives some really good up-to-date information. Actually, funnily enough, I was looking at some past episodes, and stuff from 2-3 years ago is still very relevant. So please don't discount the previous episodes, because they've all have a place to play, and you can learn so much from them.
Sensational, mate. Thank you, Nadeem. Great to have your support, and I really appreciate having Colin Campbell Chemicals on Walking the Fairways in partnership with this segment of the podcast.
No, thanks, Steve. Really appreciate that. And hopefully with Walking the Fairways, I get to lose a little bit of weight over the coming few months.
Thank you, mate. Walking the Fairways segment of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast is proudly brought to you by our partner, Dint Golf Solutions. Dint Golf Solutions is an Australian family-owned company that's now into its fourth generation of family ownership and reaching nearly 100 years old. They have become the leading supplier of golf course maintenance equipment, coring tines, course hardware and signage to Australian golf courses. As a company, they also continue to grow beyond our local shores to supply golf courses in other countries such as New Zealand, Singapore, Qatar, USA and Canada, to name a few. Along with their own Australian manufacturing, which is one of the things Dint have been well known for, they scour the world sourcing some of the best greenkeeping and golf course products to make them available to you. A couple of examples are the KBV Efforts tines in Germany. Based out of Hamburg, KBV Efforts are famous for making the Connie Spoon tapered tine and long life tiny tines. There's also the very popular iPro hole cutter invented by British Manufacturing Solutions. Check out the Dint website at dint.com.au, that's dint.com.au, and get in touch with Dint Golf Solutions. And if you remember from my chat with Adam Dinty on last Walking the Fairways episode, you just ask for Adam if you want. He'll be happy to help you out, I'm sure. And their website is pretty cool too. You can purchase direct from the website, which is cool for things like tines if you just want to put an order in whatever time of the day suits you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we get stuck into the news of Walking the Fairways. And look, it's been a pretty big couple of weeks, as you know, in southeast Queensland and northeastern New South Wales. And lots going on in the wake of Tropical Cyclone Alfred. Now, I can't believe it was only 2 weeks ago on the last segment of Walking the Fairways where I was talking about the floods in Townsville from Tropical Cyclone Kirrily. Plus, at the time, I didn't make mention of the devastation from the cyclonic winds. Kirrily came in as a Category 3 cyclone when it hit Townsville. So that's a reason why there was so much damage up in that part of the world. Now, in that segment of Walking the Fairways, it ended with me saying that it was cyclone season and fingers crossed there wouldn't be any more disasters from cyclones. Well, honestly, no sooner had I published that episode of the pod when the Bureau of Meteorology forecast models showed Tropical Cyclone Alfred was set to make almost a U-turn and head straight west for southeast Queensland. Now, I've got some great insights regarding the weather events that went on just last week or 10 days ago up in southeast Queensland. Simon Putral, Greens Director from Ashgrove Golf Club in Brisbane. Mate, how are you? Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Well, it stopped raining, so that's a positive. But, yeah, we're getting there.
Mate, that's good. Now, thank you for coming on the pod for a bit of an update here. This is the best way for everyone to get an insight, just really on the ground in some of the courses that have certainly been in the path of Tropical Cyclone Alfred that went through the southeast of Queensland. Mate, it's been a while since you're on the pod. I was just looking back. You were back on episode 52 of The Boardroom way back in May 2022. Sadly, not long after the extreme floods you had back then. A lot's happened, but it seems like it wasn't that long ago.
No, look, I had, funnily enough, I had all the memories come up on my phone from 3 years ago, and there were a lot of photos of floods, and so that was a bit of a preemptive strike. That was a week. It was 3 years and a week since the floods, so wow. That was interesting. But yeah, I actually, when the rain was falling, I actually listened back to that podcast because I was feeling a bit anxious about what was happening. So that was a bit reassuring to sort of know we'd been through it before, and you come out the other side okay. So it's definitely not as bad this time, which is great. Still lots of work to do, but
sure,
it's not as bad a situation as we had last time. And there's a lot of courses that I'm sure got hit a lot harder than us. Especially on the coast, but
no doubt, mate. And okay, so let's just begin briefly so people know whereabouts exactly is Ashgrove in Brisbane.
So we are about 8k west of the city, of the centre of town. We're sort of one of the closer golf courses to the centre of Brisbane. We sit sort of in the hills next to Mount Nebo. On the western side of Brisbane, so nice and close to town, and we've got a fairly tight golf course that runs with a creek from the Enoggera Reservoir through the course, which when we get a lot of rain gets quite high, and we've got another water course that runs sort of through the Army land. We back onto Enoggera Army Barracks here in Brisbane. So, not lovely green course, but the downside of having a creek that runs through your course is that when it rains, the water comes with it.
That's it, mate, and lots of hills around you, which is what funnels it through that area where the course is. And so, okay, mate, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about what the golf course went through with this event.
Yeah, look, it's always interesting. When we get a lot of rain, we get cut off from the majority of the course for a while. When the creek comes up, we've got an area where a clubhouse is, where we've got a few holes, but basically all the bridges get cut off. The road that runs through between the two sections of our course gets cut off as well. So we sort of have to wait and see what happened. And what we could see on the clubhouse side of the course was trees down. The creek was very, very high. If anyone listened to our last podcast, we had a couple of bridges get wiped out last time. We rebuilt our 18th hole bridge, and water was lapping against that, which we raised sort of another metre from last time. And so it was one of those things of going, oh, no, what are we going to see when we get out there? I did a quick update for our members on YouTube on Tuesday when the rain was still falling, and I went across to our 10th hole, and there was like a section of the bridge that was lodged against a tree, which was a bit scary.
Yeah.
But now the water's come down, we've sort of seen that was like an approach section of the bridge that's sort of snapped onto the side. So the beams are still there, but pretty much we have to redeck that whole bridge. So that's one of our bigger problems for getting people back on the course, is that we have to check all of our bridges. That one, obviously, you can't walk across until we redeck, but our 8th hole bridge, which is a smaller one, it was underwater for a long time. It's got all the railings bent and things like that. But since we had to replace two bridges last time, our 18th hole bridge is perfectly fine. The causeway that we built rather than the other bridge on the 14th hole, well, it's still underwater, but the concrete's not going to have gone anywhere. But we're still waiting for the water to recede enough that we can do those final inspections. But we had like 4 or 5 big gum trees either fall out of the ground just from how wet it was, or get snapped from the winds. The winds were quite high. It was a bit weird. Everyone thought we'd escaped the conditions because we're a bit inland, so there was no wind like they had on the coast. And then we got to Sunday night, and the wind, when the cyclone crossed the coast, or the tropical low, whatever they wanted to call it, it crossed the coast, and suddenly it went from, oh, we're not getting anything, to, oh, this is a little bit sketchy. So we had, like, on the 18th fairway, we had 3 or 4 big trees down. So you worry when you can't see the rest of the course what you're going to find. But I think across the rest of the course we may have had 4 or 5 down across the rest of the whole course. So that was a good thing to see. We've got a bit of a breakthrough in our dam. Last time when we had the floods, we had a lot of silt washed through.
Yeah, that's right. So I remember you talking about that, yeah.
Yeah, we dug out the dam, emptied it, dug it back out, put all of that into one of our fairways to make that a bit flatter. But this time, where our desilting pond connects to our main dam, we've had a breakthrough of that wall. So that's a bit of a pain to try and put back together. So it's allowed more silt into our main dam, which is not ideal, but we dug it out well last time. So we're hoping we've still got good water capacity there. But really now it's just waiting for it to dry out properly. We had 60 volunteers out yesterday. We put out the call for a working bee, and so we were able to chop up trees and drag them off fairways. I think we've got an arborist coming in on tomorrow with a chipper to try and get rid of the bigger trees and the bigger pieces. But we're opening 7 holes for members today to play while we still wait for the rest of the course to dry out. So we've got our sort of more elevated sections that we're opening. We're keeping across the road. We've got Bennett's Road that cuts through the course. We're keeping the holes on the other side of the road closed while we repair paths and work out a plan. I think the funniest thing is we've had this weekend, we've got a thing that we call the Jamison's Cup. Jamison's Whiskey sponsor an event. It's been washed out twice already, and it was due for this weekend. So
no way.
Yeah, we are trying our very best to play it, but we're still playing it by ear at the moment. So yes, there's usually a lot of Jamisons that's consumed in the clubhouse, and it's been more than normal this year because every time we play it rains. So yeah, a bit ironic, but we're going to keep going as strongly as we can. It's it's a tough thing sometimes when you have these events, but we're better than last time. Our heart goes out to a lot of the courses that aren't as well off as us.
No, mate, it's quite the wrap up, and like you said, there are plenty of people out there and plenty that we haven't even heard of yet. I know there's lots of clubs that are just head down, bum up in the cleanup that I know that will be completely affected, terribly so, and they're just trying to do what they can to get it cleared up, mate. But you've mentioned and discussed that so well. I really appreciate you doing so, and great to see you've got a great turnout for members to help and volunteer stakes to help clean up on the golf course. Are you you mentioned you're playing it by year? Will the club, with the waters sort of plan, you think will recede over all the course? You mentioned there's a causeway that's still underwater and that sort of stuff. Will that sort of, without any more rain coming, you expect that to, another few days or another 5 days to sort of be really clear of that high flow from the creek?
Yeah, the reservoir's gone down relatively quickly. We had a bit of a dry spell before, which probably helped. So there's not that sodden nature. Like, everything's obviously very wet now, but
yep.
It seems to be receding relatively well. The causeways are built so that they flood early.
Yep.
So it'll be a couple of days, probably, until they go down. But we've got access to most of the course now. We spent a bit of time yesterday sort of trying to push mud off a couple of the fairway areas, and that will be the next thing of just assessing where we need to do that. So we've got all the course staff out today and a few more volunteers coming down to look at those areas where we've got some issues we need to resolve. We were trying to push silt off yesterday, which is just, if anyone who's done that on a golf course, it's not the most fun activity. Trying to get water to run to drains that sometimes there's, like, a lot of our drains are still very, very full, so they're not working quite as effectively as they could. And we've got some old infrastructure that needs to be replaced that we haven't been able to, especially in areas that's been previously damaged by the last flood, that you sort of patch up. So now we've got a few sinkholes and things like that to manage. But it's just trying to keep if it doesn't rain, like the sun's out at the moment. The forecast for the next week is not great, but it's not heavy rain. It's just annoying rain. So nothing would be greater than a couple of 35-degree days to dry it out, but it doesn't look like we're going to get that. But we'll keep plugging away, and the beauty of Ashgrove is we keep on giving it a try every day, and we'll have guys, we'll have a number of members who come out to play today. They just love the place and getting out, and we'll also have members out to help clean up. So it's a great balance, and we really appreciate all of our members for being part of our community. It's really been an experience again, but we keep on plugging away.
Indeed, mate, which is great to hear, and that's the essence of a lot of clubs, is that they just keep on keeping on, right? And the membership, an active membership that are involved and volunteering to help when you really need that extra help is so good to hear within a club like Ashgrove. And I know that, like I mentioned before, there's lots of clubs that are doing similar things right now today that are out there in the cleanup as soon as they can to help everyone on course so that they can get out and play golf, which is that's the whole point of the exercise, right? So
yeah, I think the biggest thing, we're trying to get public players back out as soon as we can. We've obviously got to make sure that all of our paths and things are okay first. Like, our members, we can sort of give them a convoluted routing and they know where they're going and they know what they're doing. Whereas when we get general public out who may not know, we don't want to send them all over the countryside and things like that. So that's obviously a cost impact as well for us, that we don't have the money coming in from green fees and things like that. And we'll be trying, hopefully by early next week, we'll be able to open back up to the public. But it's that challenge of trying to keep the money coming in so that you can actually do the work on the course, but at the same time make sure that you don't damage the course or have risks for people who are coming out. So the challenges.
For sure, mate. And if people aren't sure, so this podcast we're recording a couple of days before when this will come out. This will come out on the Monday, which is when you just mentioned hopefully things are looking pretty good to have the course open. And if people aren't sure, just contact the club. If you want to get around, that's the best way.
Yeah, we've got a presence on Facebook where we keep everyone updated with what's happening. We've got a video up on YouTube of what the floods look like if people are interested. We'll keep in contact. All of our members get contacted by email, but Facebook is usually the best place. We've also got an Instagram that we usually put up pretty pictures of the golf course that you'll get information on as well. So we're easy to find, and once we get back up, we'd love to see everyone come out and visit us.
Fantastic, Simon. Look, it's great to hear that everyone's getting out there from within the club to do what they can to get the place back up and open, and it's not far away. I think that's the other thing I want to stress is that it's not like these golf courses, doesn't matter who we're talking about, and in particular you guys here at Ashgrove, you're not going to be closed for a month. Like, this is a quick turnaround, the way that the weather's been. It's come, it's gone, and there's not that long lead up of rain and a heavy season of rainfall that's going to make this a longer lasting effect. So get back out there, everyone, if you're listening.
I know Gales opened yesterday. They played out there, so I'm sure there's a number of courses which are fully open now. It was very localised as to where the biggest problems are, and obviously lower lying courses are going to have more problems. But if you're looking for a game, then just give the place a call and pick. And golf clubs need your support. So at times like this, so go out and play, go and have a beer in the clubhouse and have a great time. It's been great seeing how many people are out playing. Our course has sort of never been busier for green fee players. So it's great to see that golf is getting so well supported. And so many new people are staying playing after the COVID bubble. It's just great to see everyone out, and so get out there and support your golf clubs. Fantastic, mate. And one final question, actually, if a bit of an update. I remember with the last lot of work you did back in 2022, you had Nathan Bradbury and Golf Spectrum, friends of the podcast. They were out doing the work there that you guys were doing, improvements and repair work, and some of that included some adjustments to the golf course. How is all that gone? That was up in the higher parts of the course, I think, from memory, where a lot of that water come through from the military area. Yeah, we've had we rebuilt the third tee. We've had a few issues trying to maintain that. It would be really nice to put a nice, really solid wall in of rock and all of those, but obviously rock and the excavation costs are very expensive. So we've had a few little washouts there, but we keep on patching that up, and that's okay. The dam, we took, I think, but from memory, we took 11,000 cubic metres of dirt out of our existing dam without making it any bigger. Wow. It has a 12 megalitre capacity, so that's a good sign of how much silt was in it. We put that in the second fairway and built that up. So returfed all that so the balls wouldn't roll off as well. So that's all held up really well. Obviously, we've had a few issues with the dam again, but it's the issues of having a dam that actually is running with a creek going through it. All of the other areas we've done, the 17th tee's held up. We've had a few little landslip areas at times, but nothing major. We've had some issues with the bunkers that we redid when we, coming out of the floods, the sand that we got for our bunkers was fairly heavily contaminated. So our beautiful capillary bunkers then didn't work because the sand was we didn't realise it at the time, but as soon as we got the first bit of rain, it created this silt layer in the bunkers, which basically ruined that. So we have to remove all of that sand to get new sand in. So that's been a bit of a saga, but you can't make a cake without breaking some eggs sometimes. You just have to hope for the best sometimes. Yeah. But that's an issue that we weren't really thinking of when we came out of that, is that if you buy sand after a flood, well, what's in the sand? That's a fair point. So I know a lot of the sand quarries were underwater, and that was an issue. So we're looking at that, and we're getting more trial samples in for next time. So that's one of the things we have to do again, because obviously we've got a couple of bunkers that are looking very, very unhealthy at the moment. So you've got to go back and do lots of sand, and sand has got more and more expensive over the last couple of years. It's gone from, I think for us, we were buying it in for $45 a cubic metre, and I think now we're looking at 70 or 80. So all the costs keep going up. Concrete paths are triple what they were 5 years ago. So costs keep going up. So we're just trying to maintain golf as affordable for your members. But, yeah, we just have to get as many people out as quickly as we can, so we've got the money to do the things that we need to do to keep the golf course open.
That's it, mate. Everyone keep getting out there and playing golf in your local golf courses. And if you're nearby Ashgrove, get back out there and enjoy Ashgrove because it's going to be open very soon. So, Simon, I really appreciate you jumping on the pod and give us all a bit of an update of what's happening up there, and wish you well.
Fantastic. Love your work.
Ladies and gentlemen, no place was battered probably more so in Queensland than the Gold Coast region. And I sort of wanted to try and talk to somebody on course in the Gold Coast area. And I've been very thankful to be able to get on the podcast Superintendent at Lakelands Golf Club, Richard Flesser. G'day, mate. How are you?
Morning, Steve. I'm well, mate.
Thanks for coming on the pod, mate, for a brief one. This is the first time you've done a podcast, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely. I just started listening to them last year.
Very good, mate. Thank you for listening. Mate, now you're at Lakelands, the wonderful Lakelands Golf Club there on the Gold Coast. We'll do a little brief for people so they get an idea of what that is. Jack Nicklaus Design, one of only 2 in the country, mate. You're a pretty well-known golf course in that part of the world.
Yeah, it's actually surprising how many people don't know we're here.
Oh, okay. There you go.
For 27 years, and you work at Lakelands, and people go, "Where's that?"
Because you're not even
opposite Palm Meadows.
You're not even far. And what do they know Palm Meadows more than Lakelands?
Oh, yeah, everyone knows Palm Meadows because the Dikio Cup back in the day.
Yeah, wow, isn't that interesting? There you go.
Yeah, it always amazes us.
There you go. That's unreal. Well, mate, it was nice. I got to play there, chat with you when I played there a few weeks ago now, before the mess that's gone on with Tropical Cyclone Alfred as it ripped through town. Mate, can you give us a bit of an idea because it's all low-lying, right, at the Gold Coast. A lot of people who may not have travelled there before may not really understand it. All the Gold Coast courses, pretty much speaking, it's all low-lying. Waters rise and fall when it's lots of heavy rainfall, some faster than others that'll clear up, and some will cop it more so than others. What's Lakelands like as a golf course, mate, if you don't mind me saying, when it comes to flooding events like this?
As far as flooding, this is about equal to any of the ones we've had. I've been here 22 years, and that's probably as close as any we've got to the highest points.
Wow.
But it was the wind. The wind's just knocked trees over everywhere. I've never seen so much debris and trees down. That's the big one. Thankfully, like the guys in North Queensland laugh at us at Category 2, but
of course
we don't want what they have. It's fine. We don't need that.
No, but, and of course, vegetation grows used to what the climate and the conditions are like regularly. So
that's right.
You don't get those winds like you say down the Gold Coast. So to have it and the vegetation isn't used to that type of stuff, it's going to knock a lot of things out, right?
Yeah, well, as you were saying, we've got casuarinas all around the golf course.
Yes.
And they just got shredded. So all the car paths, you couldn't see them. They just had fronds.
Oh, wow.
Just everywhere to take the front end loader out and push the paths.
Oh, really?
Clear all them, yeah.
Jeez.
And we don't have huge eucalypts. Like they've only been planted in the last 30 years.
Yep.
And they're not massive, but I've had about 20 just blowing straight over, mainly in gardens out of the way. There's been a few on paths.
Yep.
But the courses around like Surface Paradise and I know Hope Island, they've lost massive trees.
Oh, fair dinkum.
I think Surface have got these like old growth eucalypts right across their fairways.
Yeah, because they've got quite a lot of tall standing timber, don't they? Or driving past it. Yep.
Yeah, so they're going to have to. Well, I've got contractors coming in Monday to start removing the stuff we've cut up, but we'll be able to do the bulk of it ourselves.
Yep.
But that big stuff, you've got to have contractors in.
Yeah, it's pretty full on when there's a lot of that type of stuff down. Mate, can you give us a bit of an idea in terms of rainfall totals and things like that? Because there was a lot of rain that came down during this event.
Yeah, I tipped out 600 mil over the 3 days.
Right.
But 20 kilometres from here had over 1,100.
Oh, and wow.
That's all above us, so it's come down through the Glades Golf Club, the Colonial, and then it hits us.
Right.
We're the luckier one. We're higher than the others, and so the water today, I was able to drive around the whole course without too much. There's little puddles here and there on some of the paths, but I can get around the golf course. We're able to do work. We'll reopen the front nine tomorrow.
Okay, that's good to hear. Very good to hear. How do you bunkers? Because one of the things that I know of is you got. I was really surprised. I didn't recall because it had been so long since I played there. You got some really big, broad bunkers there at Lakelands and big open sand surfaces. And when a lot of the courses go under, and I can speak for having seen the Glades in the past, where it takes a long time to repair so many bunkers because it's a lot of work. How does a place like Lakelands go with an event like this with your bunker work? What's in store for you guys?
Oh well, I've actually got I've got 6 pro shop staff down here with backpack blowers this morning.
Yeah, right.
And they've started blowing traps, but there's just so many leaves. It's ridiculous. You can't even see the sand. So
really?
They'll be going for quite a while. So it usually takes us after a rain event about up to 30 man hours to push them all up and bring them back into play.
Okay.
Because there's 100 bunkers.
Yeah, right.
But
and they're not small.
They're not average. Yeah, they're definitely not small. So it'll take, I reckon a week to get them back. I'll go out with the front end loader and start pushing bunkers up some of the faces because the bunker rakes just waste their time. They can do the smaller stuff. You need the actual loaders in there to get the big faces.
Yeah, right. Yep.
But I do have, I've hired we've got a Ventrac here and they have a turbine blower attachment.
Yeah,
so they're bringing that down today, and I'll put that on, and then we'll blow the bunkers with that. That should save a bit of time.
Yeah, cool.
Might even blow a bit of mud out for me as well.
There's so much to clean up in those in sand bunkers. It's a lot of work, and one of the things that I know a lot of players often, I suppose, get. And I've been one of them in the past, I won't lie, but when bunkers aren't up to speed, it's a little bit frustrating sometimes as a player, but it's a lot of work. On the flip side, having done it with golf courses, it's a lot of work to maintain them and keep them in that level of play that you want to have them at and present them at.
Oh, absolutely. We try to rake all the bunkers 3 times a week.
Wow, that's
and then we hand rake when we do a setup, just a spot rake where the golfers are hitting from mostly, but just in green sides. But some days you just, if it hasn't been busy, you go, we won't worry about it today. But they're trying to raise the standard here now, so we've got to do that a little bit more.
That's good to know. From an outsider's perspective with golf, as a golfer, it's good to know that you guys are doing what you can to improve more so than you have been in the past. But like you say, it adds more of a workload to you and the team, no doubt. How long, mate, do you expect before you think you're going to be fully open for play for 18 holes? Are you able to estimate that for the moment?
We'll have 18 holes open Saturday.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
But the bunkers won't be in play till end of next week.
Yep. So this will come out.
We're not going to do too much.
This podcast will come out after you're open for 18 holes, which is good to know. Overall, mate, how did the weather event fare? Like you mentioned, you've been there for 20-something years. You've been on the Gold Coast for a long time in general. How did that particular event fare to other events that you've experienced overall, do you think?
I've lived here all my life. But I was saying, talking to someone yesterday, I was here through the 74 flood.
Yes.
Which was their biggest flood, and we're well below any of that.
Okay.
But, Cavill Avenue was flooded in 74.
Yeah, right. Wow.
We've had some big rain events in the past, but that's the first real cyclone in 50 years.
Yeah, I know. That's right.
So it's just like there was more people without power this week than ever, even after that big storm we had Christmas 2024.
Yeah, that's right. That was a tornado.
Yeah, that's right. So that knocked out a lot of people, but this knocked out more people. I know my brother's my assistant. He lives out the back of Mudrabar, and he still doesn't have power.
Right, and we're a week on.
Yeah, that's right. So he's getting a bit cranky.
Yeah, I bet.
There's still people. There's a kilometre down the road. There's houses without power still.
Wow. How long did you guys not have power for?
The shed didn't have power for 3 days.
Yep.
And then thankfully it came back on, and we were able to. That was when we got to come back on Tuesday, so I come on Monday night.
Yeah, okay.
So we were able to come back in Tuesday. I went over and went to restart my pumps to try to hose a few things off, and my foot valve failed. So
no.
I'm waiting for my pump guy to come today to try to get this water, because the greens are. I had rain 5 mil last night, so I want to. I'm all right for moisture at the moment, but like if I have to I might have to hand water the tanker yet. if you can't fix it. Sounds ridiculous.
And there's a funny thing to consider for people is that a lot of people would just this isn't greenkeeping. This is into the golf headspace, right? You just had a cyclone. You just mentioned over 600 mil of rain in a few days. How is it possible that you would need to be watering is what some people are going, that's insane. But it's the way that the greens drain, right?
Yeah, well, we've got that new green that you saw on 2.
Yep.
So I did the moisture probe on that this morning. It's sitting at 11%.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's already sort of, it'll need a drink Saturday if I don't get water today.
If you don't get anything, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to come back in and give it a hand water.
And that's because we build greens in a way to as quickly as possible, move excess water through the profile so that we can keep playing golf on them. But the flip side is you can have an extreme event like this, and before you know it, other areas might still be wet or even still underwater, but your greens all of a sudden are needing water again. And that's something that's important to let golfers understand, that that's how we build greens. We want to get people out there and play, but the flip side happens when you have these sorts of events.
Yeah, no one's happy when they're going to see water when I'm putting a wetting agent or something out, or a penetrant out tomorrow.
Now, mate, one final part is sort of a catch-22 of us talking about it and me talking about what's been going on after an event like this, is that some golfers out there will probably say, oh, well, look, there's lots of damage and things going on, so there's probably no point going back to the Gold Coast because they've all been hammered to play golf on. Is there anything that you can sort of tell the golfers that are listening to the podcast about playing golf on the Gold Coast? Because it's not like you're going to be out of action for a month, is it?
Oh, no, everyone will be back within the end of next week.
That's incredibly fast. Have we got better at it?
Yeah, I think everyone's pretty efficient because we've had such big events in the last 3 or 4 years. They just know what they're doing. There's a few, I think Sanctuary Cove may be closed a little bit longer, but they can.
Yep.
Being all members, but I think they lost a lot of pine trees up there.
Yeah, okay.
And they just prepared for that
I know
ladies tournament.
The WPGA event that was going to be on up there, that's right.
Yeah, so I'd say the Pines course got pretty hammered up there. I haven't spoken to anyone up that end except for Glenn at Hope Island.
It'll be, maybe that's something I can try and find a little bit more out from Superintendent Cameron Smith, the new super who's up there at Sanctuary Cove. But look, it's good to hear that you're not going to be close, because that's the other thing I want to get across by talking to people on the ground, such as yourself, superintendents out there, to be able to tell people that you're not out of action for a long time, that you're already having to think about watering the greens again, because that's how good we can get the green surfaces back dry again and playable again. So, mate, it's really good to hear that it won't be too far away, only a matter of days. By the time this podcast comes out, you're going to be open for 18 holes again next week, which is great.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, well, I'm cutting fairways at the moment. We've got guys out there cutting fairways now.
There you go, people. So if you're listening, the Gold Coast is not out of action for golf. It was just a short hiccup. A lot of work, no doubt, made for yourself and your team and everyone else on the other golf courses in the area. But you guys are all working very, very hard. I'd hate to say it, but I have to say it, that you've become so good at it in recovering from these types of events that golfers are able to get back out and play golf. So don't be too dejected if you've got a golfing trip booked in for later in the month or into April. It's going to all still be go. And for the locals, it's already go again very, very soon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, everyone will be back. You obviously got a few of the lower courses up around Logan area. They're probably out for more than that. But all the courses around here, I know Rabina and that were cutting fairways yesterday.
There you go.
They were all, like, obviously the bunkers is probably the only thing that everyone really struggled with. Just the amount of washouts we all have. But whoever's got new bunkers, they're sitting pretty.
Yeah, I've seen some photos too from people who have new bunkers built with some of those new Fandangle bunker liner products that they last and they don't need really much repair at all, even after almost a metre of rain. So
I don't think we could ever afford to do them to our bunkers. They're just too big.
You've got big expanses there, mate. But
yeah,
look,
absolutely,
Richard. I really appreciate you jumping on the pod, letting everyone know sort of a bit of what's happened, a little detail of what you guys were on the receiving end of. But equally, it's important to let everyone know how quickly you can turn it around, how quickly the club there at Lakelands is working hard to get not only your members but also locals able to get back out there and playing golf on the golf course, mate. Like I said, by the time this comes out, which will be on Monday, you'll be up to 18 holes, and then before long, in another week, you'll have all your bunkers back in play. And, mate, it's really good to hear. So, Richard, I really appreciate you jumping on the podcast.
No worries, Steve. Thanks for the call, mate.
I've got to make mention as well, of course, that the Australian WPGA Championship was cancelled, and I feel for Superintendent Cameron Smith and the entire team of everyone involved at Sanctuary Cove Golf Club for the cancellation of the event. It was a big deal. They'd been preparing for so long for this event, this new tournament, and it had all been come undone just in one fell swoop with Tropical Cyclone Alfred, which was just absolutely devastating to so many areas, as you've heard. But look, really feeling for the team up there, because I know everyone was very, very excited to have this new event, this new WPGA event on, along with a festival of golf that was going to be held at Sanctuary Cove as well. So there's a big festival going on, and look, it's going to be on next year. They've already rescheduled it to 2026, but just disappointing that it wasn't able to be held. Now we're going to New South Wales, and New South Wales going to go into Moore Park Golf Course. And you remember from last Walking the Fairways segment, I actually had Jared Kendler on the podcast, who's the lead spokesperson for the Moore Park Golf Collective. As part of the Save Moore Park Golf Course push, the Moore Park Golf Collective have put forward an alternate plan to the New South Wales Government, a reworking of the 18-hole golf course to allow for a lot of other areas of different types of recreation on the space that is currently covered by the 18-hole golf course. So they've modified the 18-hole golf course. They've got cruise golf involved with the design of the golf course, and they've also looked into different parts of the golf course space where they can introduce different types of recreation for all sorts of different people, to include other types of recreation, as has been described by the New South Wales State Government, that there's going to be a need for more different types of recreation in that area. So what the alternate plan is by the Moore Park Golf Collective is to add in these other areas. And look, so for me, I did something different. For the very first time, just a few days ago, I went out and I played the back 9 holes of Moore Park Golf Course. Now, this was a first for me. I've driven past the golf course countless times, and it looks fantastic from the road, but I've never been up into the golf course site specifically, never even gone up to the clubhouse to have a look, and I've never played any of the golf holes. I've never walked the land. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. Got in touch with Jared Kendler. We'd arranged that we could have a morning when we were able to go out together and play some golf. Now, I'm going to describe to you my morning. I arrived in the dark, got there nice and early because I wanted to beat the traffic from home. And I arrived at 5:45 in the morning, right? So it's pretty early, 5:45 a.m. I wasn't the first car there. Now, it was a good 45 minutes-ish before it was going to be light enough to start hitting off. I don't know what time the first group was away or was booked in to be away to tee off both the first and the 11th tees. I wasn't the first car there. I got there, and upon my arrival, there was maybe half a dozen cars there. I'm figuring that some of them are probably staff. And of course, I don't know if, for those who don't know Moore Park, and I didn't know Moore Park, there's also a big driving range. I had heard about the driving range. I didn't realise it was a triple-decker driving range. It's enormous, this thing. Fully fenced in, under lights. So I got there, and they hadn't opened up the driving range yet. So I got to see the prep for the club and the course to start opening things up. So I saw the lights being turned on for the driving range. Now, like I mentioned, I wasn't the first person in. There were already people lined up for the driving range before I arrived, waiting for the lights to be turned on so they could get out there and start hitting the range. Now, that impressed me greatly, but probably didn't impress me quite as much as the fact that when I walked down towards the putting green in the pro shop area, near the clubhouse, and there were already golfers milling around ready to get going they were obviously the first couple of groups to hit off. These golfers had a couple of practice putts under the fairy lights and things that are around near the cafe that's there, that's open. You can get a coffee early in the morning, and near the pro shop, which is getting ready to open. They had a quick couple of putts, walking over to the first tee and the 11th tees, and they were waiting. They had about 20 minutes to wait, at least in my view, for it to be enough light to hit off. These people were so eager to play golf in the morning. Now, maybe it's their morning routine. Maybe they were there for the first time. I don't know. But there were people lined up on the first tee. There was more than one group. I think there was 6 people lined up on the first tee. So there was 2 groups ready to go. And they were just having a chat in the first tee, having a few practice swings, just waiting for daylight. They were sitting there standing, waiting for daylight and having a yak in the morning. I'm walking around taking photos, looking at the putting green, looking at areas around the clubhouse. I've never seen it before. And here these people are waiting. So the driving range has got people on it. The lights have been turned on. And the first tee has already got a group backed up behind the first group, ready to wait for daylight to go out. And then there was some ready on the 11th tee as well to go off. So I just was already... And once it got to being dawn, so waited another 20 minutes, the amount of people that started streaming in, getting into the pro shop, having a practice putt, ready for their groups to be hitting off, and then going into the driving range, I kid you not, if there wasn't 50 or 60 people hanging around, I'll give it away. I could not believe the amount of people there. It was incredible. In the dark. This really blew me away because I was not expecting that many people to be so eager to be playing golf at that time of the morning. If you could manufacture more daylight hours, they will be playing golf there. It was incredible. So I was really blown away by the eagerness of the people there to go and play golf at the Moore Park facility and the Moore Park golf course. It was really quite surprising. We get to hitting off, having a practice putt. Jared came, showed me around, and then we get to hitting off and we played off the back 9. So we played the back 9. Now the back 9 encompasses the majority, actually all, of the space that the New South Wales State Government has earmarked to repurpose for a park, for parkland space. Now I'm here to tell you that I was gobsmacked at the landscape, the lay of the land, the topography of the golf course at Moore Park. I've seen it from the roads. When you get there and you get to the golf course, you park in the car park, you get up, there's 2 significant sand hills that the Moore Park area is built on out of the 4 that were originally around way back 150 odd years ago. But the 2 that remain are Mount Steele and Mount Rennie. Now, Mount Steele is up just to the northwest of the car park for the club, and it's probably the highest point of that space of the Moore Park area. And then Mount Rennie is the site on which the golf clubhouse was built back in the 1920s. So you arrive and you're on the highest point. Now, when you get out to the golf course, the first sort of heads down and runs along a ridge, so it's still quite high. But for the back 9, you hit off the 11th tee, which is quite high, but you hit down into a valley, which is the 11th hole. And it is really, really impressive to stand and look at where you're about to go. Very impressive indeed. It's a long hole. I can't remember if it was a par 4 or par 5. But it was fantastic to start off with. And the rolling hills that are part of the landscape of the back 9, you hit down into this valley off, like I mentioned, off the 11th tee. And the movement in the ground, the topography that's there, some of which I'm sure has been built, because the interesting part of the history of the land of Moore Park, of the northern paddock of Moore Park, which is this area that's to be repurposed for a parkland space, of the 20, in inverted commas, 20 hectare space that the New South Wales Government has earmarked of the back 8 golf holes at Moore Park Golf Course to repurpose as a park, what no one's actually told you is that prior to it being a golf course, it was the city tip. It was the local dump. Underneath that ground there's a reason there's a golf course on top of it, ladies and gentlemen, is because you couldn't really use it for anything else. Underneath that golf course is a very old tip. And I don't even want to know the type of things that were buried back in the early 1900s before golf. They actually started by routing the golf course around the tip and the incinerator, which is located on the back 8 holes of what is now Moore Park Golf Course. Now, that's long been buried. Like I said, there's a reason that there's a golf course on top of this ground. Now, there were very few details of the New South Wales government's plan of what to do on this parkland space that they're going to repurpose to create all sorts of different things and facilities. But there's been the idea of whether there would be a 1 or 2 football fields put in this 20-hectare space. Now, I kid you not, there is nothing remotely flat about the back 8 holes. Forget the back 8 holes. The entire Moore Park Golf Course. There's nothing flat about it. Now, if you want to put in a football field of AFL or rugby league style football field, that's a flat space. And they're not small. Rugby league football fields are around 100 metres long. If you want to carve up that area of the golf course, the New South Wales government, and make a flat couple of football fields in amongst other parkland type areas and recreational spaces, you're either going to build something up very high or level something out a great deal. That requires a lot of earthworks and a lot of materials to build those spaces and a lot of earth-moving equipment. Now, there's been little details given about the state government's plans of what they're going to do with the space, but I've never heard anyone mention about the fact that there is a very old tip underneath that golf course. Now, they start digging, or they start building up on top of because of that very old tip. Will be very interesting to see what sort of numbers are put into any proposed works to be built for that park, for the construction of that park area, and all-encompassing of the 20 hectares that they're talking about. That's my first observation about the back 8 holes, about Moore Park Golf Course, as the undulations, the elevation changes. It is significant as well. We're not talking 2-3 metres, 4-5 metres here or there. We're talking 10 metres in some parts. It is significant, some of the movement in the ground. You go up and down, uphill and down dale. And looking at the alternate plan, this is just my opinion, looking at the alternate plan that the Moore Park Golf Collective have come out with, there is the opportunity to be a very impressive golf course built for the public, a reworked and a reimagined Moore Park Golf Course on that site, which is really interesting. So I've looked at their plan. They've got a detailed plan. Cruise Golf is involved. Hey, Harley Cruise. I've had a chat with Harley about some of those ideas that he's got there. And the very first thing we couldn't stop talking about was the topography of the land. It is astounding. I got the impression that Harley was probably licking his lips at the idea of being able to remodel some of the areas in that golf course. So the topography is very, very impressive, but not very impressive if you're going to build any football fields on it. Very impressive for golf. Very impressive for small corners of recreation, different types of recreational use. And have a guess what? On the Moore Park Golf Collective alternate proposal, they've utilised some of these areas very, very well to put in other types of recreation areas, barbecue and picnic grounds, the BMX track. There's lots of different things involved in their plan, and it is really well thought out. Hey, because they got the right people involved for a design. Mini golf, different things, walking tracks, but all things located in the right areas. Now, I put a video up the other day on socials during my visit at Moore Park, and one of the major entry points for the New South Wales government's park is to put an entry down at the corner of South Dowling Street, the southwestern corner of their proposed park, South Dowling Street and Dacey Avenue. And that is one of the busiest intersections in the city. And it's also one of the loudest. Now, there's the golf course that goes down there, of course, that pushes into the corner. But you are only there temporarily. You don't stay there. You move away. You move back in towards the middle of the golf course, away from the traffic. those parts of the parkland space you're not going to want to be near if it's a park. I can tell you right now, it's so busy and so noisy. It's not anywhere you're going to sit and have a conversation with friends or enjoy a quiet corner reading a book or sitting down and having a bit of quiet time. There is no quiet time unless it's the middle of the night. So it was a really interesting comparison about what they wanted to do, what the New South Wales government wants to do with their park, and one of the major entry points is down there in that southwestern corner. One of the other things that I noticed, like the topography, I'll go back to the topography, you could do anything. There's some really good golf holes on Moore Park that I played in the back 8 holes. Really enjoyable golf holes. Some of those will be reworked, but the topography allows for some really interesting, cool things to be done. So I like the idea of that. Some people are going to say that I'm biased towards liking that idea, but I really am. I really do like it. I think it could be really good, really clever, and really well thought out. The alternate plan from the Moore Park Golf Collective have the right people involved. The New South Wales State Government have no one involved with no real ideas of what they're going to do. So we're flying blind. And in actual fact, you could argue that we're flying so blind that the state government's going into this with no idea how much things will cost. Like I said, if you start doing works on that ground and you want to build football fields, the things are going to be pretty significant in cost. There's not a lot of significant costs involved with the alternate proposal put forward by the Moore Park Golf Collective, and that has been costed out. I've heard Clover Moore talk about that Moore Park Golf Course is fenced off from the public. It's fenced off, it's an us and them scenario from people who like to enjoy green open space, and the golfers, they're over on the other side of the fence and we're kept out here, that sort of scenario. One of the interesting things I learned during my time there last week playing golf at Moore Park, along the boundary of South Dowling Street, which is the western boundary of the Moore Park Golf Course, where there's a big fences put up, because on the eastern side there's no real fences. It's just I think there's chains and bollards, and that's about all, because it's quite a steep hill. All the walking paths, or the walking path, one of the main walking paths, is down the western boundary of the golf course, which runs along 15 and 16, holes 15 and 16. Now, what's interesting about that is they're quite big fences. Yeah, sure. I saw a few people walking. In actual fact, I saw less people on the walking track than I saw on the golf course, which I thought was really interesting as well. It's Friday morning. Lots of people playing golf. The golf course was full very quickly, back to back with groups. I kid you not, there's people everywhere. But I saw more people on the golf course than I saw on the walking track, which was interesting. But that said, the fences that run the western boundary. The interesting part about who maintains Moore Park Golf Course, and Clover Moore's narrative out in the media is an us and them scenario, when it's Centennial Park and Moore Park Trust that run and manage the golf course space, and they have a contractor out that manages and facilitates the golf, but they oversee and maintain the golf course, is essentially how it works. So when it comes to fencing a boundary, that comes under Centennial Park and Moore Park Trust, which is run by the state government. So the state government are the ones who have put the fences up to stop people from mixing between the walking tracks and the golf course. Now, some people would say that's there for safety. Sure, okay. But when the narrative comes from someone like Clover Moore, who's trying to lead the push to repurpose 20 hectares for parkland space, take it away from golf and make it not golf, which is all they're trying to do, so that it's open to other forms of recreation, namely walking and running and sitting on grass, and a bit of a dog park as well, no doubt. The state government actually controls the fences. So they could take the fences down tomorrow if they wanted to and have that western boundary open and make it permeable between people who aren't golfers and golfers. The same as it is on the eastern boundary, same as it is on the northern boundary, where there are no fences. It's only on the western boundary and on the southern boundary, South Dowling Street and Dacey Avenue. I find it rather interesting that the state government are in control of the fences. So they obviously were the ones who put them up. Moore Park Golf Course can't just go and do what they like. It's overseen by Centennial Park and Moore Park Trust. which is overseen by the New South Wales State Government. So they could take the fences down if they wanted to. Now, this is one of the arguments that Clover Moore has put forward, that it's fenced off, us and them. It's the government that's done it itself. Now, the irony out of all of this is that only very recently a portion of those fences were removed, only to be put back up with brand new ones. So the narrative is that the golf course is putting fences up to block out the general public from using the land. They actually are maintaining the fences themselves to keep that in place. So there's some really strange things going on that Clover Moore is glossing over and hoping no one will scratch the surface and look into further. The Moore Park Golf Club, the membership, have no bearing on the way the golf course is managed or maintained. They merely have the ability and access to some tee times. That's all, as far as the golf course goes. They don't have a say in how it's managed. They don't say put fences up over there and we'll go and put fences up over there. We don't want people coming in from that side. That's done by the New South Wales State Government itself. So they have the right to change that and potentially remove them themselves at any given time. So there's a random one for you, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think they actually know what the hell they're doing. Clover Moore is talking about it in a way that makes it look like the people who are playing golf are the ones dictating the terms, when they have no say or bearing whatsoever on how any of the operations are done for the golf course. That's done by the state government anyway. So if Clover Moore's got an issue with the fences, she should take it up with the people that she's already taking it up with, I suppose. She's already got the ear of Chris Minns, the Premier of New South Wales, and this 20-hectare thoughtless park will turn into an absolute disaster with no plan. Now, when the lease runs up at the golf course, and it may or may not be renewed, so let's say it's not renewed, there is no work to begin for the new park. So what will happen is, I'm guessing, that the golfers will be allowed to play on the 9 holes that is still allowed to be played on, and the 20-hectare site will just sit there and do nothing with and grow long, much like what you see in a lot of other spaces. Or they'll just start mowing it as short grass, and people will start. It will be fenced off from everybody because it will become a construction site. But there is no plan or costs associated with what they want to do because they don't know what they want to do yet. So no one really knows what the state government has in mind, least of all themselves. But there's an alternate plan put out by Moore Park Golf Collective, costed, very well thought out, using golf course architects to come up with a plan that ticks all of the question marks that the state government put forward that was an issue with the current site. So, ladies and gentlemen, go and check out savemoreparkgolfcourse.com.au. I urge you to go and check it out, to take the time. I know it takes time. I really do. I know it does. But just, it's all in front of you. The good thing about the Moore Park Golf Collective is that they present all of the things that have been raised, and then they answer all the questions. And all the information's there. So you don't need to go looking too far. But you can go and search what you want to search for what the state government are trying to do, and you'll find nothing. All you'll find is a whole heap of questions with no answers and no idea. So I urge you to go and check out savemoreparkgolfcourse.com.au. Be involved. Try and be active if you can. Sign the petition if you haven't. And get behind this push to save Moore Park Golf Course. I've called Moore Park Golf Course the golden goose of public golf in this country. There is no busier 18-hole golf facility, public 18-hole golf facility in Australia. There is a busier 36-hole facility, and it's over in Perth. There is no busier 18-hole facility in this country. And this is right in the middle of Sydney. And the other thing I learnt when I played golf there the other day was just how magnificent it was to be able to play golf and knowing that it's an 18-hole golf course, to play golf on an 18-hole golf course and a magnificent site in the middle of Sydney, surrounded by some of the best sporting facilities we have. You know, the SCG's over the road. The SFS is over the road. It's the football stadium. There's an athletics field next door on the front nine. There's tennis courts everywhere, basketball courts across the road, football ovals, cricket pitches. There is stuff everywhere. And here we are, enjoying a game of golf in amongst all of it. Now, it's important to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that when the City of Sydney Council were first brought forward with the idea of building a golf course at Moore Park by a couple of Scottish brothers who lived across the road on the Redfern side of South Dowling Street, it took a little bit of convincing, but the City of Sydney Council said yes. And it was to be the first public golf course in Australia for the public, maintained by the City of Sydney Council, going around what was land that was unsuitable for any other sport, namely because it was too undulating and half of it was used as a tip. So golf enthusiasts played golf on a very undulating piece of ground, which ironically is suitable for golf, but was unsuitable for any other form of sport, and it was a tip. So it was a waste area. And as time evolved, they would expand to 18 holes, but they would still go around the tip until such time as they buried it. And then they would go over the old tip. The incinerator was packed up, demolished. The tip was buried, never to be seen again, out of sight, I suppose essentially out of mind back in the early 1920s. But golf prevailed. It expanded as the game became more popular to 18 holes. And the City of Sydney Council were looking after the golf course in the earliest of days. Now, it was at a point in about the late 1930s, after Eric Appley had put forward a proposal to redesign the golf course after the athletics field was built in a portion of the golf course land. And the City of Sydney Council, so they were constructing into Eric Appley's design, and the council decided that they didn't want it to be used for golf anymore. In fact, they needed a tip again. So they just started dumping rubbish on the fairways. And they didn't care. So 1939, 1940, their plan was while it was under construction, they would just go and start bringing trucks in and tipping rubbish in it again and repurpose it as a tip. And then there was a time during that period of upheaval in management that it was taken away from the City of Sydney Council, the management of the golf course, and it was taken over by another government body, which would ultimately evolve to become the Centennial Park and Moore Park Trust. Now, here we are again at a time in the life of Moore Park Golf Course, the first ever public golf course for the blue-collar worker in Australia, where the City of Sydney are trying to repurpose that same bit of land. In actual fact, that land of the tip is the hollow of the golf course. It's one of the lowest points. And here they are trying to take that land back and repurpose it for something else yet again. But this time the City of Sydney Council don't have control. So they're pushing the state government to repurpose that land. Now, I think it's highly important to understand all aspects of that land itself, what's not only on top of the ground, but also what's underneath the ground. Because once people start digging, costs tend to go up. And at no part in anything that I've read from the New South Wales State Government has talked about what they may or may not have to do with what's under the ground. Or indeed, if they're going to avoid that and just build it up. Because once they start taking machinery to the old golf course to make it not a golf course anymore, and that requires earthworks, there's going to be things that need to be considered that's under that ground. So my opinion is that this has not been thought out of whatsoever at all. So ladies and gentlemen, I say it again, check out savemoreparkgolfcourse.com.au. I'm here to keep spreading the messages from the Save Moore Park Golf Collective because I believe in saving Moore Park Golf Course. And having been there just last week for the first time, I can tell you now there's not many places that still blow me away even when I've got an idea of what I'm going into. I've done my research, I've done a lot of things, and I was still blown away by how many people use the golf course at Moore Park. And I didn't finish my story about the people we played with. I played with two lovely old gentlemen, and obviously Jared Kendler. We were joined by two lovely old blokes, and one of them had been playing there for 18 months, and he moved into the area, retired bloke, and he really enjoys. He gets out there 3 times a week and plays golf. Now, he does that 3 times a week, and I'm going to say there's lots of other people that do similar things. That's why there's so many people there. The other gentleman that played with us has been playing golf there for 26 years, I think he said, and he plays there once or twice a week. Now, that's just 2 people that bumped into us, put their names down next to us, and we went out and enjoyed the back 8 holes in the morning. And it was a spectacular morning. Really, really had a wonderful time. Now, they are but a small part of the type of people that go out and enjoy the morning's walk for their own health and well-being. It's a big part of why they get out there and walk those fairways and enjoy their golf. There's lots of people that do it. Socially, we got to enjoy golf with 2 strangers, Jared and I. Didn't know who they were from a bar of soap. And there's a wonderful thing about walking up to the first tee you're going to play in your day of golf and meeting 2 other people or other people to join your group that are out there to enjoy golf just the same. And that's the common ground. You're there to enjoy the golf course, enjoy the sport of golf, enjoy being outdoors, enjoy the exercise, the recreation that comes with, and there is a whole lot of people that do it at Moore Park. And it is part of their lives. This gentleman that we play with that plays there 3 days a week, that's his routine. If he has to battle to get on because it's too busy, more full than it is now, it's flat out. That's why he's there early in the morning. You're going to take that away from people. And then they don't have that anymore. There is nowhere else to go. He walks to the golf course because he lives nearby. Yeah, you can catch a tram to the golf course on one of the Sydney trams because it stops at the SCG across the road. I drove. People walk. All sorts of different walks of life play golf at Moore Park Golf Course. And it's one of the most fascinating things I experienced there the other day. It really, really was. And it brought a smile to my face seeing all those different types of people from all their different walks of life come together at Moore Park Golf Course. It really is a special golf course. And the reason why I'm happy to be involved, to do what I can, to talk about it, to try and help save Moore Park Golf Course to 18 holes and even expand it so that other people can enjoy the space through different things that they do. But it's also, one of the things Jared and I spoke about was that it can be done better still as an entry point for the sport. Lots of different things, lots of different programs can be brought in. Moore Park is one of the best entrance gates to the sport of golf in Sydney. I kid you not. I was really gobsmacked by how good it is, how welcoming it is, and how busy it is. Just fascinating and absolutely fantastic. And it would be a crying shame. It would actually be a disaster if the golden goose of public golf in this country was taken to with a knife and cut to pieces, because it would be destroyed and there'll be no going back from there. It can't happen, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, it just can't happen. It's too important. It's too important to Sydney. It's too important to public golf, and it's too important to Australia. There's a real opportunity to do something special. And in my mind is what was done at Sandy Links. In my mind is the announcement from the Premier of South Australia, Peter Malinauskas, with their idea of enhancing their North Adelaide public golf courses, or one of the public golf courses there. I mean, that's a move forward. That's a big deal. I've got those in my mind, and I just think what could be at Moore Park. I really hope that this works. I really hope that what we're doing is for something. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for an update from Nigel Taylor about the Dirty Dozen Everesting challenge that he's doing for mental health awareness. G'day, Nigel. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, Steve. How are you today?
Mate, I am sweltering, just quietly. It's probably just a normal day in the world where you are, over there in the tropics.
Pretty normal. Yeah, very normal.
Mate, we've talked about your quest and how things are going. I've had an update in the past on Walking the Fairways. Let's get you on the pod now and give everyone a bit of an update. One of those things is we saw you and I mentioned you'd done a redo of your second Everest climb, which was in February, that didn't quite go to plan initially. And I mentioned there were some technical dramas, and then you've done a redo. Can you take us through that you've completed the redo? Congratulations, and what happened to go about doing it 2 in a month?
So the scheduled second Everest was going quite okay. It was on a really nice piece of road, I was about a 40-minute drive from my place. But basically what happened was I used 2 Garmins so that if one fails, I've got it recorded on the other. They both failed at the same time, essentially. And I really couldn't work out why that was. And the thing with, the whole thing relates to a lot of psychology, right? And so part of doing the Everest is that the buzz you get out of it is you're able to upload to the official Everesting website that you've made that achievement.
Yep.
But without the data, you can't do it. You need the data. You need the URL that has been logged onto Strava, and you copy that. And so as soon as that switch gets flicked in your head that can't happen, it's really hard to get back over that. And look, I'm not a professional athlete, obviously. I'm a weekend warrior at best, right? But a lot of professional athletes will tell you the same thing. As soon as the shoelace breaks, or the number falls off, or whatever, your mind can't focus on what it's supposed to be focusing on, and you get lost in that thought process.
Yep.
So it rained in the afternoon. It was a really big storm actually in the afternoon. I probably should have stopped. I didn't, because that particular road is quite good, quite easy to ride on, and I felt pretty confident with it. But it turns out that I did some digging. It turns out the altimeters on the Garmins don't like moisture. And so, put 1 and 1 together and you get 2, and it's pretty straightforward. So I have a remedy for that in case it rains again, which is way further from technology than it's possible. It's just plastic bags. So I've sorted that out. So I had said that I would do that, I wanted to do 12 full ones. So I hadn't anticipated doing a redo so quickly. However, I had a bit of a bad week, and I thought I need to clear my mind. So why don't I just pack the car back up, go out? I didn't really tell anybody, and until I posted that I was at the start, and I thought I'll just use that energy to redo it. And I changed my strategy a little bit too. I started late in the afternoon, so that the majority of the ride was basically without sunshine. That makes it a little bit easier as well. It's a lot cooler. Humidity is still high, but it's a lot cooler and less traffic, and it's just easier to manage. So it was probably a little bit close to 2 weeks is probably a bit too close together.
Sure.
I did feel a little bit. I did feel a little bit tired. It got to sort of 3 o'clock in the morning, and I did actually stop for a 15-minute nap. I set my time and alarm and laid down in the bus stop next to the car and had a little nap. But
us mere mortals are thinking 12 months is too close for a second one. You're doing 2 weeks apart.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is that it was the other part of redoing it was that I didn't want the first one to be a fluke. I wanted to know that it was. I was able to do. Keep doing them right. And it's quite hard to do the same climb twice, also, because you kind of have memories of the first one, and you know what it's going to be like. Every corner, every bit of bitumen, basically.
Sure.
So it's a plus and a minus, and So anyway, it's fine. I'm pretty happy that I did it. I really couldn't squeeze another lap out. I wanted to, but I was really had, like I said, I had a bit of a bad week, and actually I didn't really have that much sleep beforehand, so it was a bit on the limit. But that's okay. I got it done. Pretty happy I got it done, because now I know I can, do multiples, and this one's sort of 3 weeks from the last one. So, or the next weekend will be 3 weeks from the last one. So plenty of recovery. So it's all good. Yeah,
fantastic, mate. That's a big deal, a big effort, and I think I failed to mention at the beginning. This is about raising awareness for mental health in our not just in the sports turf industry, the greenkeeping industry, but anywhere that anyone knows about in any industry for that matter. It's just that this is the space that you're in, and this is the space that we're in, and we're talking about it. I've been talking to people. People have been chatting with me about your ride, your challenge that you're doing to raise awareness. People are talking about it. I just finished an interview for Keeper of the Greens there, and I had a chat with Josh Smith in the UK, young fella, and we were chatting about mental health challenges for not just himself, but in general, and we were talking about it on the podcast. So that was an episode that was just released the other day, and here we are chatting about it on the podcast again. And as I said to Josh, it's something that we wouldn't have done 12 months ago. And here you are, and he's talking about your inspiring story for people such as himself, that, he's like, wow, Nigel's out there putting himself out there, and, we've got to think about what we can do to help ourselves, think about what we can do to help each other and help out other people who might be going through these challenges, mate. And this is because of you and what you're doing right here, right now. It's incredible, mate. It's incredible. I don't know how that makes you feel, but I'm already hearing chatter from it. And I was at Live Golf in Adelaide, and I was talking about with a couple of other greenkeepers down there, and I'm getting messages about it, mate. So that's what I'm hearing.
And that's the main thing. That's the point, to get people to talk about it, not to not talk about it.
Yep.
It's to talk about it. However they're talking about it, whether they bring what I'm doing up or not, it doesn't matter. As long as the conversations are starting, that's going to help people.
Yep.
It's going to make people, not everybody needs to do what I'm doing and go publicly with the challenges they're having, but I feel more comfortable now having done that. There are one or two people in the world around me that sort of look at me a little bit differently now, but that's okay. I get that. But in the same conversations or the same kind of atmosphere, they do recognise that the Everest is something a little bit crazy and have a little bit of respect for it. And it's funny, I don't live in an English speaking culture, and I don't, and the superintendents in Malaysia don't, they don't maybe do sports or whatever, and cycling is a bit foreign to them, right? But every time I go and see one, somehow they know what I'm doing.
Yeah, right.
And they're talking about it. They're talking about it. Yeah, yeah. And wow. they just shake their head and go, "How do you do that?" And then I explain it to them like, "Oh, that's great. We need that. We have people. They talk it themselves, right? That people have problems and whatever. So it is getting a bit of reach. As long as people are talking about it, that's the goal. That's one of the goals. That's one of the goals.
Yep, let's keep talking about it. Fantastic, mate. Now, you're preparing now for number 3. We're into March. Technically, this is the 3rd month, obviously. So you're back on the schedule of doing your 3rd one. Tell us a bit about what you're doing to prepare for that and when it is.
So basically, the week after I do an Everest is basically 0 goes on.
Yep.
I might get on the home trainer for like an hour and just spin the legs out, but otherwise nothing. And then that weekend I get going out, just doing miles. It's just about keeping fitness really, because I think I've said before, but someone put on an Everest blog that I read, it's 40% physical and 90% mental, and it's nothing is that's as close as is so close, because as I explained about the Garmin's, as soon as something just trips you up, you can't get that. It's really hard to get focused again. So, I've been out yesterday and today to have a look at a couple of hills that I've never climbed before to see if they're suitable. The one yesterday would be, except it's got a huge amount of traffic, and a set of traffic lights halfway up, and which is halfway down also. That's not going to work.
No,
that's not going to work. No. So the climb I looked at this morning is quite good. It's quite nice, quite shaded actually, which is also good, although I'll do it at night, but there'll be a period of time during the day. But so I've chosen my next climb. So that'll be next weekend, which will be the 22nd of March. It'll start in the afternoon, sort of 3:30 p.m. local time on the 22nd of March, and try and roll through, try and knock it out before 12 p.m. on the 23rd of March on Sunday, 12 p.m. Yeah,
sensational. So, mate, where do we find you? Is it the Dirty Dozen? We've got a page that we can find you on Instagram, so we can follow when you do it, because you will post. I know you post a couple of things when you start and so on.
I will. Yeah, so it's the dirtydozen.12 on Instagram and the Dirty Dozen on Facebook, and it's just my personal LinkedIn page, and everything goes to my personal sites as well. Anyway, so you can follow along, and what I would like, what would be great for people to do is to share the posts and get more people.
Yep.
To onto the site, onto the Dirty Dozen page there on Instagram.
That's it. So if you're following, ladies and gentlemen, just share that. If you see the post up, or even now, if you see a post, just share it, and that way Nigel knows that and we know that we're all in support. Cat's back to say hello, right on time again.
Yeah. Right on time, guest appearance, That's a cameo every week.
Very good, mate. Yeah, so look, great support that we've got for you and what you're doing. It's incredible. It still astonishes me just what you're trying to achieve. And mate, for those that might have not listened to the details in the past that we've done, just tell us a little bit about how you go about these climbs. What's involved in the climb?
Okay, so basically, an Everest is finding a hill that's suitable, that suits you, and there's some numbers involved with that. You ride up and down that hill as many times as it takes to accumulate the elevation of Everest, which is 8,848 meters. So, for example, if the climb has an elevation gain of 100 meters, then you're doing 89 laps, essentially, of that climb, right, to get to 8,900 meters.
Got it. And you could be riding for how long on a rough estimate of time? This is the part that gets me every time.
Yeah. So the first one, which obviously was the beta test, that took me, it was 22 hours.
22 hours of riding, more or less non-stop. You're stopping for having something to eat and something to drink, but... You're not sleeping. You're not getting a nap. You're not getting a nap for an hour or anything. You're riding and then just toilet breaks and that's it.
Yeah, basically that's right. Yeah. So it's
that's
staggering. And so I know. I do have to admit, after the second one that I did, when I started that, it did dawn on me how kind of crazy this was.
Mate, it's intense. Like I said, we're putting it out there. I think what you're doing is admirable. It's absolutely staggering. It's inspiring. There's so many different ways to add words of what you're doing. It's inspirational to a lot of people out there. Like I said, I've had conversations. I've got messages of people that are now starting to follow that as well and talk about the topic at hand, which is for mental health awareness. So and looking after yourself and looking after others that you know that are going through these challenges, mate. So congratulations again. Look forward to following, mate. We're with you all the way in spirit when you start these hill climbs, and when we get to the end, we're rejoicing with you. And mate, keep it up, because we're still talking, and we will keep talking about it.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve, and thanks to everybody that's supporting and reaching out and following and talking. Thanks to everybody that's talking. That's the main thing. Get everybody talking about it. Yeah. About the challenges.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's another very interesting episode of Walking the Fairways. Thanks to Superintendent Richard Flesser at Lakelands. Thanks to Greens Director Simon Putral from Ashgrove Golf Club. Thanks to Nigel Taylor, and give us an update on the Dirty Dozen that he's doing. And I thank you all for listening. I really do. Hope you got something out of that episode. A little bit different, a few interviews and a little bit of my opinion about Moore Park Golf Course. Next time around, we're going to have a lot more of other news from right around the country. So stick with me, ladies and gentlemen. I'll bring you more insights and more understanding of what's going on around the country on Walking the Fairways. And I hope you got something out of this one with a couple of interviews about what's been going on up in Queensland with the aftermath of Tropical Cyclone Alfred. Now, don't forget to reach out to me, thegolfinggreenkeeper@gmail.com. If you or your club want to share what you're up to and how you're improving your golf course, no matter where you are in Australia, small club or big, it doesn't matter. I'm here to share how you're improving and what you're doing to make your course better for all the golfers out there that enjoy playing golf. Now, there's lots of clickables in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. There's going to be plenty of stuff in there, so please take a look at them. Click on which ones interest you, and you'll be taken to where you need to go, which is the good part. It's a little shortcut to everything. And of course, I have to say thank you to partners of Walking the Fairways, and that is thanks to Colin Campbell Chemicals. And don't forget to check out their website and their podcast, of course, Behind the Turf podcast, and their website for all their plant protection products and the Behind the Turf podcast as well. It's available to you at campbellchemicals.com.au. Thanks also to Dint Golf Solutions, partnering with Walking the Fairways segment 2. And check out their website for all their products available for your golf course. Obviously, don't forget about the tines. It's a big important one. And you can check that out at dint.com.au. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to episode 112 of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. I'll leave you with it. You hit them clean, we'll keep them green, and I'll catch up with you next week.